Good morning. It is indeed the 8th day of August 2023. Good morning. This is the great KBC just in time for KBC News Check, a program that is earmarked to ensure that you are kept afloat with all the latest happening in the country. And with all fairness, a lot is happening in the country, beginning with the bipartisan talks that we are expecting to commence tomorrow that were midwifed by former Nigeria President Olusegun Obasanjo. We are also keeping tabs with the president visit of the central region of the country. And actually today in the morning, the president did chair a cabinet meeting at the Sagana State Lodge. And later on, he is also expected to commission a new KCC plant in Kiganjo. And of course, what is shaping up the news in the country, we will be talking about that. My name is Njue. Lensa Odingo is my colleague who will be handling the sign language interpreter for this program. And of course, you can be part of this conversation, comments, suggestions, or even where you are watching us from. We are live on all our social media platforms as well. We will be looking at the bipartisan talks, but for first things first, allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. Beginning from my immediate left, we have Engineer Chrispus Wathimba, who is a governance and leadership expert and also a regular analyst here at the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Engineer, welcome.
Thank you so much, and I'm happy to
just
be here.
Next to Engineer, we have Honorable Cecilia Ngitit, who is the women rep for the great county of Turkana. Madam, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Very well. The President, beginning with you, Wathimba, for the last 4 days now, the President has been on a developmental tour of the central region. And we're talking about launching of various infrastructure projects, and you are passionate about that as well. I would like you to comment on that.
Well, for me, I'm very happy to see the President going back to central Kenya and Mount Kenya region to the large extent, and giving time to the people of Mount Kenya, people who contributed over 40% of the votes that he secured for his win to be the President of the Republic of Kenya. And the second thing I want to comment is that he has committed himself to finishing all the infrastructure projects that were ongoing. He's not encouraging any leader to start fresh projects, but has emphasized his desire to complete all the infrastructure projects so that the benefits that the people of Mount Kenya were looking forward to from the Kibaki administration to the Uhuru administration can be fully realized during the William Ruto administration. And lastly, I'm also happy to see that he has gone at a time where the benefits of the fertilizer subsidy are about to be fully realized, because we expect a substantial harvest this time around, especially in the Mount Kenya region, where the subsidy program of the fertilizer was quite well entrenched through the support of through the leadership of the Deputy President. And I think he will take time to take stock of what the subsidy program has done and be able to see how best he can continue improving this plan so that the country can be able to sustain itself in terms of food production. I believe as a country, if we are able to solve the issue of food security, we'll be able to address some of the most critical issues that Kenyans are bedeviling with, which is the cost of living. And for Kenyans, cost of living, a greater extent of it is about food. So once we're able to produce enough food for our people, then we can be able to say that we have been able to address by a large extent the cost of living in this country. So I look forward to see more deliberations, especially today when he's meeting the leaders of Mount Kenya, and see what are the issues they are going to discuss and some of the resolutions they are going to make in terms of how the region is going to continue supporting the economy of this country.
And Madam Cecilia, looking at the President's visit, yesterday he actually said that all the projects that had, we are first of all completing the stalled projects. No new projects will have to be undertaken before the completion of the project that had already been started. And that is something that we have witnessed over and over regimes, that you find that each regime, there are a lot of projects that are left, and sometimes they become white elephants where you find that they are never used ever again. I'd like you to weigh in on that.
Okay, I think I want to congratulate the president for that move, because some of these projects, if you look at them, most of them were stopped, not because there were no finances, but because most of them were started by His Excellency, the Deputy President by then, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. So because we were headed to a very tough political tussle, so it went political. So some of these projects were frustrated just to have some deductions on his political mileage. Now, I think I'm so glad he's trying to track back from where we got lost. All the counties have projects that have stalled for some time. So I want to encourage the president that it is high time to finish those projects, not only in central Kenya, but in the entire country. Because even in Turkana, there are projects that were started and they were abandoned. So we are expecting that the president has started that move, starting from central Kenya, then it will go all the way, even to the northern part of the country. So it's a good move, and we want to encourage him.
All right, we are also joined by Mbeere North MP Geoffrey Ruku. Honorable Ruku, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
The president, let me just throw you to the deep end. The president is on a 5-day working tour of the central region. Yep. And yesterday I do remember that he mentioned that all new projects have to be stalled first, and we have first of all to complete the project. This is something that we have witnessed when regimes change over, where there are various projects which are left unattended, and sometimes those projects are never ever completed. But the head of state said yesterday that we need to complete those projects first.
Yes, because a government is a going concern. There is no government which is of this time, and when a new government comes in, start a different project. Government is a going concern. The only thing that changes is the cabinet secretaries and ministers and the president, but the civil service and other key parastatals, they still remain. Therefore, it is the most prudent thing for the president to do to ensure all projects started by the previous regime are completed, because, of course, different standards were done baseline service for this project to be implemented, and therefore it is only prudent for those projects to be completed. And yes, the president is committed in ensuring not only the old project but also new project to be started in different regions of this country. And for this facet in Mount Kenya, it's just one of the facets among many other. You remember before then he was in Coast, and he stayed in Coast for almost also 5 days, and this is something which the president will be continuously doing to ensure all regions of this nation are well integrated in his administration.
Engineer, we have seen that today at 7, the president was chairing a cabinet meeting at the Sagana State Lodge, and nobody was late today, but it's just one of the ways of more or less going on the ground to ensure that even the people around, not only State House Nairobi, know that indeed this is also a working office.
Well, you know, I spoke to the doctrine of the William Ruto administration, and I think today being the 1 year since we went to the general election and had him elected as president, he has now clearly communicated the character and nature of his presidency. And those who work with him or those who work under him must follow through in terms of the kind of style of leadership he's going to preside his government with. And therefore, to see him presiding a cabinet meeting at 7 a.m. is true to his nature. He's a man who works very hard. He's a man who works very long hours, and he doesn't seem to get tired. And I think it's encouraging to see our president taking leadership in terms of making sure that we don't lose any time, we don't lose any second in terms of the opportunities we are going to take as a country. And if we continue with this kind of momentum, I believe that blood will catch up with everybody in the country, and we'll see the productivity of this country increase, and all of us will be able to fully realize the benefit of a fully and working nation.
Indeed. And still on the same, let's first of all revisit yesterday's story in regards to the president and yesterday what things have been, especially in the central region, where President William Ruto says the opposition must also follow up on the law, must denounce violence before the 10-member bipartisan dialogue committee can begin talks, acknowledging sentiments by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga that he is not interested in joining President Ruto's administration. The head of state said that he has instructed his team to talk with the opposition, but added that a political handshake and violence experienced during the anti-government protests are off the table. Let's hear what the president had to say in regards to that story.
In his second day of his walking tour of Mount Kenya region, the head of state joined worshippers at the Sagana State Lodge for an interdenominational Thanksgiving service. Coming at the backdrop of criticism from the opposition, accusing him of imposing punitive taxes contained in the Finance Act, the president was clear that he would not relent in seeing that the proposals were fully implemented.
Mnajua mzee Kibaki wakati alichukua usukani kama rais, tulikuwa tunakusanya bilioni 200 kama taifa. Akatuambia tulipe ushuru. Nyinyi mlisikia, nyinyi mnajua. Lipa kodi. Hiyo ndio ilikuwa lugha ya mzee Kibaki. Akatusukuma wakati alikuwa anaondoka baada ya miaka 10. Tumetoka 200 billion, tumefika 1 trillion.
The president warning that accumulated debt in the country continues to threaten the stability of the nation.
Kiri mimi nitakosea nisifuate hapo kwa mzee Kibaki mwenye alitufundisha inchi inajengwa na kodi. Inchi inajengwa na ushuru, haijengwi na madeni.
He says the country, through taxes proposed for collection in the Finance Act, have enabled Treasury to come up with a payment plan for debts falling due in June next year.
Unajua tuko na deni kubwa tulikopa inafaa kulipwa mwezi wa 6 mwaka ujao. Ya $2 billion huko mwezi wa 6 mwaka ujao. Sasa wakati tumeketi chini tumepanga na tumesema hii deni hatuwezi kungoja mpaka next year. Tumeanza sasa kuipangia vile tutalipa mapema.
And we were convinced by experience, reason and proven track record that William Ruto, the doctor, had a plan to transform the economic fortunes of our people. And that is why we made that decision.
Once more, the head of state sounded a warning shot to the opposition over anti-government protests, which he claims are backward.
Sio kufuata katiba ya Kenya, na sio uzalendo wa aina yoyote, kuharibu mali, kuendesha vita, na kulete chuki kwa Wakenya.
Kenya is not a failed state. We have a president, a government, duly elected, in broad daylight. And where there was doubt, the courts were tested.
There shall be no more violence, no more anarchy, no more bloodshed in the political engagements of our country. That we have made a commitment, Bishop, and I want to give you that word.
The president has since arrived on Saturday been engaging leaders in the central Kenya region and government officials as he schedules the launch of development projects in the area beginning Monday. With a meeting with the political leadership in Mount Kenya expected Tuesday, President William Ruto maintained that the anticipated dialogue between government and opposition would only happen under specified parameters. Reacting to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga's sentiments, the president called on the opposition to go a step further and denounce violence witnessed in the recent anti-government protests.
Wamekubali jana ya kwamba mambo ya handshake hata hawa hawataki, hiyo tumekubaliana. Sasa mimi nataka niwaulize jambo la pili. Kwa sababu mmekubali mambo ya handshake, mmewachana nayo. Mimi jambo la pili nataka niwaambie pia tukubaliane mambo ya vita na fujo na kuharibu mali na kuharibu maisha biashara ya watu. Pia na hiyo tukubaliane tukomeshe katika taifa letu la Kenya.
We want Kimani Ichung'wa at your team.
before you start these talks, you make it a condition that Raila Odinga and his team must denounce violence as a way of sorting political issues in this country. Tumekubaliana hiyo?
Revealing that his team had firm instructions on what should be the agenda of the Kenya Kwanza side in the talks, President Ruto says he will not back down on the non-negotiables.
If we agree on those two, that there is no handshake and there is no violence, then we can proceed as a country, we can discuss the rest of the things. Mambo ile ingine yote tunaweza kuzungumza, lakini mambo mawili hayako katika mjadala.
Wale jamaa wasijaribu kusema hao ndio wataendesha serikali hii. Wanajaribu kusema watu waende kufungua masava na nini. Kwani mwaka mmoja imepita na ujui kwamba rais wa Kenya ni William Samoei Ruto?
Sisi tuko tayari kuongea mambo yanayohusu mwananchi wa kawaida. Mambo ya kibinafsi, mambo ya kugawa mamlaka, mambo ya nusu mkate, mambo ya handshake, hayo hayako kwa meza ya sisi kuongea na wale marafiki zetu. Mimi yangu ya mwisho rais wetu, hii maneno ya mazungumzo, mimi kwa roho yangu hata sitaki. Mimi hata ningesema tuachane na mazungumzo.
On the thorny issue of the cost of living, the president says his administration is implementing its plan of subsidizing farm inputs and the efforts are bearing fruit.
Furniture tutatengeneza hapa Kenya na nyinyi vijana mjipange. Mambo ya samaki tutapeleka vijana wetu kule Indian Ocean wavue samaki, tukule samaki ya Kenya. Neguo.
Ile mpango umechukua. Ile laini mimi naona wewe unapitia. Ni ile ya mzee Mwai Kibaki. Ya kupanga uchumi.
On Tuesday, the president is also expected to hold a cabinet meeting at the Sagana State Lodge.
That's just a glimpse of what the president has been up to for the last 4 days, and he continues his tour of the central region, and they are very clear that he will not tolerate any acts of violence in regards to anti-government protest, and also emphasizing that need for us to continue with the work. And I will post this question direct to you, Honorable Ruku, and he has mentioned a number of things, of which some of which you are more passionate than other members of parliament, because you also have a bill that you are lining up to ensure that in case of any demonstrations, those perpetrators of violence or of anything are held accountable. I'd like you to weigh in on what the head of state said yesterday.
I think what the president is saying is completely in line with Article 37 of our constitution, because Article 37 of our constitution gives two conditions for anybody who want to do demonstrations or who want to do picketing, assembly and presentation or petition to public authorities. You have to do that in a peaceful manner and in an armed manner. And therefore, what we have seen in the past, from the time Azimio started the demonstration, they are always violent demonstration. By the time even the police are alive, the demonstrators are always burning tires on the road. That is violent demonstrations. And the police cannot stand and see burning of tires on the road. They have to ensure there's no tires which are burned on the road. Therefore, what the president is saying, I'm completely in agreement with that. And we have to be a nation which is democratic, but not only democratic, but also disciplined nation. And our constitution, the letter and intent of our constitution is that, yes, every Kenyan has a right to do demonstration, but you have to do it in an armed manner. ODM or Azimio and Wiper and all other parties within the coalition have used that article, and they have read Article 37 in a very selective manner. They say every Kenyan has the right to do demonstration, but they don't tell Kenyans that there are two conditions on that article, and that's why I came up with the Maandamano bill, which is at advanced stages at the moment in Parliament, to ensure we put into effect Article 37. We have to get completely to do away completely with this culture of violent demonstration. Let's do demonstration. We can demonstrate the entire of the year, but let those demonstrations be organized in a very peaceful manner. And therefore, anybody, once we pass this bill in Parliament, it will become law. Anybody who organizes demonstrations and they are violent, then the properties is lost we have loss of property, we have loss of life, then those people, whether it is individual or a corporate entity, then they'll be held accountable. And actually I'm proposing also that for a party, a political party, to organize demonstration, and we have taxpayers' money, which goes to these political parties, then that money must be attached so that it can be used to pay the destruction cost by the demonstration organized by a party. Therefore, when someone is getting not permit just to notify the police that I'll be having this demonstration, the other question is, which party do you belong to? You say you belong to ODM? Okay, that's okay. Go organize demonstration. Tomorrow there will be fireworks. Then the first thing we should do is to attach your money, which comes from taxpayers. Because at the moment, if you ask ODM, it has huge amount of money. If you ask UDA, we have huge amount of money from Treasury. Therefore, this money will be used to repay the damages cost, but not only the political parties' money, but also you yourself individually. You should be held accountable for all the costs, all the loss of property and life, because life is sacred, and we should be a nation which respect that every Kenyan has.
Yeah, and because at least we have ample time, we will be going back to your bill so that we may know exactly the thin line between Article 37, which allows and gives Kenyans the right to picket, to demonstrate, and also give petitions, and also the thin line that is there without infringing on that cardinal right. But we'll be talking about that a little bit more or a little bit later. But I'll go to Madam Cecilia, and talking about violence and looking at, violence every time degrades the security situation in the country. And you are from a county that even the government is there right now because of the cases of insecurity. Of course, some are politically instigated, some of which have been there for ages and ages. And the security apparatus have claimed that they will stay there until there is calm forever and ever. I would like you to point out on that, because there are a number of projects to ensure that the people in Turkana County live harmoniously.
Okay, I think any patriotic Kenyan will never support violent demonstrations like the ones we've witnessed in the recent past. Every Kenyan has a right for protection of property, has a right for protection of life. Now, when you organize demonstrations that literally end up taking away lives, literally end up demolishing properties, now you infringe into the rights of others. So demonstrations of late are very violent. And we are not opposing demonstrations. Of course, the real meaning of demonstration is you organize a peaceful demonstration to pass across a message or to push government to some decision. But now our Kenyan case, I think our brothers in Azimio have lost the patriotic bit of it. Because as a Kenyan, when I see a policeman being chased by stones by our young boys in the streets, I feel so bad, and the world is watching. The world is watching our police forces looking helpless, running around with those young boys who have been organized to stage the dangerous demonstrations. So I think demonstrations are not good, and I'm not in support of it. And now the same leaders who are organizing these demonstrations, when our young people lose their lives, they now come again, play the victim role, like sympathizing with these people. When a policeman is being stoned and bleeding while running, and he has a firearm, what does it tell the world about our forces, about our security apparatus? It means our security apparatus are vulnerable by themselves. So what of a Kenyan? What of you now? So, and then back in Turkana, okay, there are security apparatus down there who have been deployed there to curb the cattle rustling menace. But I can comfortably tell you the cattle rustling is still going on. In fact, it is now in alarming rates. We are losing people on our A1 roads, just travelers. In few days ago, like 3 days ago, we've lost like 4 people who've been shot dead while traveling. Just when a shuttle is spread bullets indiscriminately, then people are critically injured, others die there and then. And the people doing this are doing it on a A1 road, like a few kilometers from the camps, GSU camp, from KDF camp, from US2 camp, like a kilometer or few meters. When you go to Kainuk town, there is a game park there, a Turkana Reserve game park. In that place, when you go there, just driving while going to Turkana, you will see Pokot's bandits having guns, walking on the road, in the pretense of like taking care of their livestock, but they are having illegal firearms, right in the eyes of government. And then you will ask yourself, are these people above the law? And they just do those heinous acts on those roads daily. And they have known how government behaves. They come, kill people, then they disappear into the bushes for some few hours. They will watch government react for some hours, then they will come back and carry out again those activities. So it is high time our security apparatus upped their game.
Yes, and still on the same, I've seen some of the initiatives in regards to the peace efforts in the Rift, and one of them has been Arrows for Peace. I don't know whether that kind of program is there, where we have the young men who are always with arrows, and they can substitute those arrows for something good as archery or something. I've seen maybe it is one of the ways of bringing these people together, because the first things first, when you bring people together, you are able actually to speak to them and you're able to actualize your peace agenda.
My brother, peace in the North rests with the leaders. I think we will only be peaceful when we, the leaders of the North, will decide that let's bring this to an end. It is unfortunate to tell you that some of our leaders, through grapevine or through rumors, are said to be financing cattle rustling. So long as the financials are still there and they are still baying for that blood and for that livestock, we will not attain peace in that corridor. It is high time we, the leadership from the North, have a conversation that are we going on with war or are we stopping it? If we will decide to stop it, it will stop. But so long as you can come up with all these initiatives, peace initiatives, Arrow, whatever, and all that, but the financials are not yet done with their intention of financing war. So it rests with the leaders. Our people down there, the electorates, listen to leaders. When a leader is known for financing violence, that is the only manifesto he's elected for. As much as most of us run around looking for votes, wasting a lot of finances to get votes, there are leaders who walk into the podium and just tell their electorates that in the next term, we will ensure we've expanded our land. In the next term, I will make sure you've pacified this and this community. You know, and this thing is being aided by leaders. 3/4 of insecurity in the North is aided by leaders. That one I can tell you. So it is up to us, the leadership from the North, to stop it. And the same leaders even go ahead to compromise our security apparatus. That is why I've been on record, because these are things we see happening down there. Bandits charging their phones in a military camp, and they walk around with illegal firearms.
Now, these are some of the things that, as a leader, you should point out, and especially to the security team committee in the National Assembly.
These are things we've been pointing out. We've been bringing adjournment motions of this kind in the Assembly, but nothing seems to be working. But I'm glad one of the officers that was heading us to, who was really in bed with bandits, has been removed from there. And we are appealing to the authorities to even go ahead. There are those other people, the herald boys of that security officer who have remained down there. We want all of them to be removed, so that those officers who really mean peace can be brought over to work out on that security menace.
All right, that's a good way that the MP has really try to explain to us the situation right there. But still on the same, as we look out for these leaders who are always funding this kind of violence, there's also some good news in regards to some of the peace efforts being done by peoples who are not even government to ensure that we have a lasting peace, and especially at the Rift, we have the Arrows for Peace. Let's first of all have a sneak peek of Arrows for Peace and exactly what it entails.
Welcome to Baringo County, a region which in the recent past has been known for conflicts originating from cattle rustling and consecutive banditry attacks. However, a group of peace campaigners dubbed Arrows for Peace has redefined the purpose of arrows, transforming them from instruments of deconstruction to tools of unity through sporting activities and archery.
Our pastoralist communities, warriors or boys, they are very much skilled in shooting, and they can shoot a moving target. If they are able to shoot a moving target, that means with a stationary target, they can be able to do more if trained.
Irene Limika, a former marathoner in Berlin World Championship in 2009, and the brain behind the group, say they want to use the sport as a transformative initiative which will end conflict brought about by banditry.
The people of Baringo County, especially those coming from the banditry zones, will get to know that they can actually use the arrows through practicing archery.
Limika says the initiative will not only enhance communities' culture, but also put to an end banditry in the region.
It's not only about throwing arrows and winning medals, but it's about community transformation. And community transformation starts with inner peace.
I want to believe it is going to impact so much positively to our youth, and I want to believe that as soon as possible, we are going to have enrollment of our youth and the population in archery as a sport.
The impact of Arrows for Peace extends beyond its picturesque surroundings. Recognizing the potential for archery as a tool for diplomacy, members have organized workshops for neighboring communities and even reached out to schools and youth centers to promote the values of non-violence and cooperation.
A lot of these wars have not left people the same. People do things and people don't know why they do what they do. So we would also want to engage the community with trauma healing, helping them to get past the traumas they have been able to get through the situations they have had to go through.
When people participate in a common activity, friendliness develop. Exchange of positive economic activity take place. So it will end up in a way as we come to do in sports. Bring the communities around from Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo, West Pokot, Turkana, Samburu, bring them together, and that will bring cohesiveness within the community.
Baringo County Governor Benjamin Chiboi welcomed the sport, noting the initiative will go a long way in alleviating conflicts in the region as well as enhance peace among the residents.
Next year, the team from the warring community can be taken to Olympics to showcase their talents of shooting and aiming at the target now, not on a human target, because we shoot to win, not to kill.
That's just one of the efforts that are being done by non-governmental organizations in regards to peace, and especially in Baringo and neighboring counties. And it's a good thing that we happen to have the Turkana women representative here who has felt it and looking at things, saying that indeed a lot needs to be done, but our leaders are partly to blame for the kind of violence there. Engineer, looking at some of the efforts that we are seeing actually from non-governmental organizations, these people have no affiliation with the government whatsoever, but it's an initiative that they say that indeed we really need to have to do something, even as government marshals its troop to the 6 disturbed counties in the country.
Well, you know, we need to realize that government cannot be everywhere. And therefore, wherever you are based at, in your workplace, where you live, where you congregate, you have a responsibility to participate in promoting law and order. A country which has no law and order is a failed state. We don't want to go to the levels of Somalia, where there is no law and order. We are a progressive country. We are a strong democracy in the region. We are a strong economic powerhouse. But we can lose all that if we lose law and order. Therefore, the responsibility to promote and support law and order is everybody's responsibility. I want to encourage the Member of Parliament, Mr. Ruku, to push that bill so that it can also contribute in enforcing the law and order at an individual level. Anybody who will cause for mass demonstration should call that mass demonstration with a sense of responsibility, knowing that if this mass demonstration fails, I have a responsibility to meet. And therefore, it's important that every member of this country has a responsibility to bear for any action he or she takes. And it's good to see there are members of our community who are taking the initiative to try and work around the issues of cattle lustering and insecurity in the North Rift. But I also want to speak to the nature of our country. There is one former leader of a neighboring country who said Kenya is a man-eat-man society. We've also become a country where we are capitalizing on security. The cattle lustering issue is not more of a security issue, it's a commercial issue. There are people who are trying to promote commercial interests in terms of stealing these herds of cattle and selling them to a market. And that market gives them money. So we have a problem where, as a country, we have forgotten the value of humanity and looked at the money that we make as individuals. Leaders are more interested in making money at the behest of sacrificing their own people. So we need to find a balance in terms of the values we have as a country vis-a-vis the desires of prosperity that we behold. We have seen the people being killed or dying in Shakahola at the behest of leaders who are promoting a prosperity gospel. So we as a country, we lack national values. And if we can find a way to instill those national values, then some of these cultures that are outdated will not be something we discuss. Our neighboring countries, like Uganda, in the northern part of Uganda, is the same as northern part of Kenya. How come we don't see this kind of culture or the kind of insecurity? It's because that country has a different set of values. So even us as Kenya, we need to establish a set of values and we live by them. And then generations to come will live in those values and we'll be able to live in an orderly and peaceful manner as opposed to what we have been doing for the last 60 years. Indeed. The culture of insecurity, the culture of taking commercial interest greater than the interest of the people is very wrong. If you look at the Maandamano and the opposition fighting for cost of living, when they come to this discussion, they are not even coming with the discussions about cost of living. They are coming with the discussion, where can I find my space in this government? That is very wrong. If you are fighting for the cost of living, then remain with that narrative that I'm fighting for the cost of living. But if you start changing narrative that you want to be included in government, then clearly you don't care about the people you are fighting for. It's all about man-eat-man society. So we have to change as a country and be people who have values and stand by those values.
Indeed, and we're going to look at that, and especially the two teams that have been tasked with the talks, which should begin at the Bomas of Kenya tomorrow. And it's a good thing that we have leaders from the National Assembly, where majority of these people have been picked up. But Madam Cecilia, looking at what Arrows for Peace are doing, this is not even a government initiative. It's an initiative by athletes or former athletes, for that matter. And I'll pick where Engineer has mentioned, indeed, is that in as much as we have politicians who we are accusing of actually fueling most of the insecurity, and especially in the North Rift, there are also businessmen who are also aiding and abetting. Because I remember the governor for Trans Nzoia, when he was the regional commissioner for the Rift, he said that most of these animals that are stolen from as far as Turkana, from as far as Baringo, are actually a delicacy here in the capital, Nairobi. So there are also people that we also need to be keen to look out for, not only the politicians.
Okay, I want to applaud what the Arrows for Peace are doing. You know, even if it's not solving the whole issue, but to some extent it's working. And we cannot discourage any initiative by any Kenyan that is geared towards attaining peace in the warring communities. I want to encourage Arrows for Peace, only that, you know, they are using the arrow, and whatever is being used in the cattle rustling and the insecurity in the north is the gun. So I don't know how the Arrow for Peace is related to the gun now.
You want to bring people together.
But you know, in Baringo, it used to be arrows. I'm told they use poison as arrow for war. So maybe it works there. But we are very far from getting the peace. And I think government can start things like common infrastructure in those areas. We can have common utility infrastructure like school, roads, good roads leading to those interior places, because bandits are using, they are taking advantage of bad roads. Even when you look at the odd spots where they shoot these cars, it is where the roads have are rugged. So I think government can improve on infrastructure, and then in those places where the hotspots for banditry, we can have infrastructure like schools, where Turkana children, Pokot children, Marakwet, Samburu can go to school in that institution. That can be a symbol of unity. That can be, it can aid peace. And about the businessmen who are aiding banditry, it is true. What Natembea was saying was true. Because whenever anti-stock unit, the ASTU unit of security, those people who are who go after bandits to recover the stolen livestock, when they go for this livestock, they will not trace even a single cattle. So that tells you it goes straight somewhere. Then there was some investigations done. We realized it was coming to Kenya Meat Commission, it was coming to Dagoretti Slaughter. So it is something that is so organized. These bandits go carry out the heinous act, and they receive money. They receive money as they let the cattle go. Then now, even when the security apparatus are following up to recover the livestock, they have nothing to recover. So it is also something to be looked into, so that such businesses can close down. Because so long as those butcheries and abattoirs are open, so the bandits will still have the urge to go for the livestock.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, looking at the value chain, for lack of a better word, of the banditry, because at the end of the day, there is also the butcher, there is the abattoir, there is the bandit himself, and also there is the consumer or the buyer. Yeah. But Geoffrey, Ruku, I would like us to wrap it up on matter security so that we may go to the talks. Kenyans are really waiting for those talks, because the two teams are more than ready. They have already set the date. Some demands here and there, but I'd like you to touch on the matter of security. The CS for Interior, he's a very busy man, especially there, and he said he's going to camp there until normalcy is restored in the 6 counties, something that has taken years and ages, actually.
The CS for Security, Professor Kidure, is an extremely dedicated man to ensure the security, not only in budget areas, but also when it comes to the external threat we have from Al-Shabaab, as well as also the internal threat we have from Maandamanos, is going to be solved once and for all. That Kenya will have a new paradigm shift when it comes to management of its internal affairs. They will always be conducted in a very peaceful manner, because there's no reason as to why a supermarket in Kitengela, the Eastmart, roasts millions of Kenya shilling within a day. A supermarket in Wayakiwe, Quickmart, roasts millions of money. A supermarket in Embakasi, known as Muindi Mweusi, roasts millions of money during these violent demonstrations. And whether it is demonstrations which are violent or verdict in those 6 counties, or the Al-Shabaab, all of them should be treated in the same way, because investments take time. You know, for you to be able to get return on investment, it takes time. To come and destroy someone's business, you are just another verdict. to go and steal someone's cow and find a way of those cows getting to Dagoretti Corner, and Dagoretti Ndonyo, that's how we call it, or to Kenya Meat Commission, you are just another terrorist. For you to go and cause mayhem in Ramu and Northeastern, you are another terrorist. And it has been very clear in the mind of our CS, Professor Kidiki, that he's treating all these people in the same manner. Because there's nowhere in our constitution where it is around for anybody to organize violent demonstrations. There is no article of the constitution which allows that. The public order, public safety, freedom and right of the other person to enjoy a natural environment and do business like any other person is a right enshrined in our constitution. Therefore, you cannot hide behind Article 7 for you to hold violent demonstration. You cannot hide behind any article of our constitution for you to exercise banditry, to steal cows, to displace communities and cause all the troubles which we have seen in Baringo and many other counties, as well as other places happening in Garissa, our border with Somalia. Therefore, we are supporting Professor Kidiki and his team 100% for him to ensure all this, which has been a mess for many years. And I'm happy that today, in some of those areas in Baringo, we are seeing people growing maize. We are seeing order coming back. We are seeing schools working. And I think this is the kind of the country which we need. Kenya is a great nation. We only need to put some of these things into place, and we can change this country within a span of 10 years. It is possible to change this country completely within a period of 10 years. And especially if we make a decision that we are going to depend on our resources to build this nation. And the kind of the finance bill, or now the Finance Act, and the one which will come next year, I'm telling you, I'm seeing this nation changing within the course of 10 years to a different nation altogether, because we have traveled to different parts of the world. We have been know these nations which are, we call them developed. The economy is huge, not because they have some magic, it's because of the leadership. It's because of the conscious decision which the hands of states of those nations probably made many years ago. And now, I think this is a moment where Kenya, through the President William Ruto, has to change its trajectory completely once and for all, and it is possible.
Indeed. Well. And as something that also has been hitting headlines is the bipartisan talks that were midwifed by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo. The 86-year-old African statesman has been a peace mediator with the African Union and also United Nations for a while, and he chipped in and brought about two teams that, of course, we are expecting that tomorrow they will kickstart their bipartisan talks. By the way, just to go through them, if you missed, we in the Azimio Brigade, we have they are being led by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and also will include Majority Party leader Pio Wandai, DAP leader Eugene Wamalwa, others are Nyamira Senator Okongo Omogeni, and Malindi MP Amina Mnyanzi. On the government side, or the Kenya Kwanza side, we have Kimani Ichung'wah and Aaron Cheruiyot, both leaders of majority at the National Assembly, and at the Senate, we have Embu Governor Cecilia Mbeere. We also have Hassan Omar, who is an Iala MP, and also we also have the Honorable Catherine Wabilianga, who will also be in that bipartisan talk. Gentlemen and ladies, we have a two-part team. We have the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza sides. I do remember the president, the day before yesterday, I believe, or it was on Sunday, when he was responding to some questions from journalists, and he was asked about the bipartisan talks, but he steered clear from then and said, let's not discuss that. And also Honorable Raila Odinga, since they formed the 5-member committee, has also steered clear of that. But their lieutenants, their MPs, the people who, their right-hand men they have always been talking about what we expect in the bipartisan talks. But something striking came out from both brigades. We haven't had any part of Wanjiko. We haven't had cost of living. We haven't had a lot of things. If you outline the issues that will be talked about, including IEBC, the entrenchment of the CDF, and also office of the leader of official opposition, and also the cabinet, the prime cabinet secretary, we haven't had the Wanjiko factor there. Engineer?
Well, my biggest reservations with this talk is, as you've mentioned, the voice of Wanjiko is not there. As much as we have reached out to people outside Parliament to be part of the discussion, we haven't seen on the government side a hustler being part of the talk, or Wanjiko on the side of the Azimio being part of the talk, because it is the hustler and Wanjiko who are really bearing the brunt of the cost of living. Whereas the government has clearly said, for us, we have what we call Kenya Kwanza plan, or the bottom economic transformation agenda plan, which carries the dreams and aspirations of the hustler, and in terms of lifting the economic well-being and addressing the cost of living. On the side of the Azimio, we have not had their plan or their agenda or the alternative they want to present in terms of addressing the cost of living. So we are concerned that these discussions may just end up being an issue of discussing selfish political party interest. For Azimio, they want to be assured that when it comes to selecting IEBC commissioners, their voice or their interests are covered. Whereas for Kenya Kwanza, they want to protect their Kenya Kwanza plan, making sure that they have the room to deliver on the plan they gave to Kenyans, which is a good thing, because we gave the mandate to lead this country for the next 5 years. We must also give them the room and the space to be able to deliver on the promise they made. But the opposition, as much as they are voicing their concerns, they are not being able to really carry the interests of Wanjiko clearly as they want us to believe. So I just pray that the leadership that has been selected will be able to protect the interests of Kenya as a whole in whatever deliberations they will make. One of the challenges we've had with this bipartisan talk is that, in my opinion, there are certain economic interests that are being that are struggling. We have a government that has just left, which was led by Uhuru Kenyatta, and it had a way of running the economy. Now we have a new government led by William Ruto, which has want to dismantle the infrastructure that was already established then to be able to establish their own. And therefore, the past administration and those systems that were in place are trying to fight back so that they can protect the commercial interests that they had already entrenched. So that they can continue milking as much profit as possible. Whereas the new administration is trying to say, no, we have to stop this thing. We cannot continue milking the cow that feeds us without providing the fodder it desires. So we are going to see a very hard road to travel and quite a long way to go. So Kenya should brace themselves for a very difficult bipartisan process ahead, which may not bear as much fruits as we may desire. That's my opinion.
All right, and of course, when we come back, because we are taking a quick short break, we will be looking at those talks. Remember, the first bipartisan talks did collapse. What is needed to ensure that we do not end up with the bipartisan talks the same way the other ones collapsed? We have, I'm honored to be having Engineer Chrispus Wathimba, and also I have two honorable members of the National Assembly, the woman representative for the great county of Turkana, Cecilia, and also we have Geoffrey Ruku, honorable, who is the Mbeere North MP. We're taking a short break, but we'll be right back. We'll be also weighing in on your responses on social media platforms. Don't go away. Welcome back to KBC News Check, and we are still looking at the state of the nation, and one state of the nation issue that is currently on the lips of every Kenyan is the bipartisan talks. Remember, they were brokered by the former Nigeria President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is an African mediator and African statesman, and they created two teams, of which I've mentioned the five-member team from each side. And conspicuously, as the engineer has noted, that we did not have any Hustler or any Wanjiku right then. But we are hoping that they are not going to collapse just like the other ones did. But what do we need to do, or what do they need to do to ensure that these talks do not collapse? Welcome back. I'm still having two members of the National Assembly, the women rep for Turkana County. We also have the Mbeere North MP, and also we have governance and leadership expert, engineer Chrispus Wathimba. Mheshimiwa Cecilia, Kenyans have suggested that the bipartisan talks, we are talking about things that are affecting Kenyans. Would you support the fact that indeed it's bombers? We can do exactly like we did covering live, like we covered the elections. Do you support that they need Kenyans also to see and hear what exactly they're talking about, so that we may clear the air on what each side wants? Because one side says these guys want to come to government. They say we do not want any part of government, but we need these issues addressed. Would you support that? Because I would.
Okay, I think just the way engineer was putting it, I think there is something that is not adding up. It's like the participants in this talk have formed some agenda for us that they are talking about this. Then when they reach there, I think they talk about different things, totally different things. And that's why the first bipartisan talks failed. I think I want to support the idea of going live, so that Kenyans really know what the discussions are going on in there, so that we know if it is indeed the cost of living they are talking about. Because I think when they reach there, they start talking about the servers, they start talking about negotiations of a nation that looks like there is a disputed election. I think they should go live, so that we really know what is going on in that discussion. Then secondly, on that table, I want to challenge them to introduce maybe 2 or 3 members of public to represent the Wanjiku in that talk, so that indeed, if they are not going live, let them introduce 3 or 4 members from the public, so that we know they will talk about the Wanjiku issues there. But if they are not introducing the 4 or 3 members, let them go live, so that we know what conversation is all about. Yes.
Honorable Ruku, looking at the 5-member team from both sides, Wanjiku and Hustler are conspicuously missing. But away from that, the Kenya Kwanza government have already outlined what they want discussed on the table, about 5 issues which entail IEBC, entail the entrenchment of the CDF, entrenchment of the office of the leader of official opposition, and also entrenchment of the office of the prime cabinet secretary. Well, we haven't had any issue that is touching Wanjiku, and especially on the cost of living, which is affecting everyone, including you as a leader.
Number one, I think members of parliament were elected by Wanjikus and Mamambogas to represent them in different forums. That the members of parliament who are there, their intention is to talk on behalf of the Wanjikus and the common mwananchi. And that's why we are called Wabunge, because tuko na ujumbe. And we carry this message to that debating house, so that decisions can be taken.
But even if we look at the 5 members, where we say that it's not going to be more or less like an ad hoc committee, we are going to get some people from outside. But even the people from outside really are not exactly the Wanjikus.
I really don't support the idea of getting someone from outside, because if you look at our constitution, it talks about the sovereignty of our nation. Article 2 of the Constitution. If you look at the Article 2 of the Constitution, it's Article 2 where the delegated authority, that Article 2 says the people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through their democratically elected representatives. So these people who are in those talks are there sent by the people who elected them. So it is actually the common man who is in that table, through Kimani Ichung'wah, through Honorable Cecilia Mbeere, through Wambirianga, through these other people who are on that discussion table. So for me, I don't really support. We have to do the talks must be done within the realms of our constitution. They have to be legal in terms of discussions. And within Article 2 of our constitution, people of the Republic of Kenya will exercise their sovereignty through their democratically elected representatives.
In as much as you're quoting Article 2, a lot of Kenyans would like to also refer back to Article 1, which power and sovereignty belongs to
You
the
can't
people.
do them. You
and
can't do it.
In as much as you are representing us in Parliament, these are talks which are touching each and every Kenyan, and there is a leeway to include people who are not members of Parliament. Both sides did pick a few, but they never really put much emphasis on the common mwananchi and the cost of living.
Just as they say, you can't have your cake and eat it. You have to choose either to exercise the sovereignty of the people directly or through democratic elected representatives. It can't be both. So it's either we dissolve the parliament and the houses of the representatives at the county level and at the national level, then the people can exercise the authority directly, or so long as the elected people, then please allow the representatives to exercise that authority of the people. So for me, I will stick on that. And that's why we are saying these talks must be done within the framework of our constitution. Because we in Kenya Kwanza, we respect the constitution. The people in Azimio, they take this constitution as suggestions, mere suggestions. They respect it when it is good on their side. When it doesn't favor them, then they say, they come up with all manner of justifications as why they should not respect different articles of our constitution. So for me, I will stick that yes, and that's why you see from the Kenya Kwanza, there is nobody who is not elected. But on the side of Azimio, Kalonzo Musyoka is... Yeah, he was running mate. He was not even running mate to Raila Odinga. He's not elected by anybody. It's just that he was a former vice president. He has been in the office for quite some time, yes. But you see, there is a lacuna as far as the law of the land is concerned. But what I want to say is that, one, these discussions must be held in a public place. Let's not have this discussion in the Serena Hotel or in KBC.
It's a good thing it's at the Bomas of Kenya.
In Bomas of Kenya, that is perfect. That is okay. It's a public place. There are no huge bills which will accrue. And any bill that's accruing from this discussion will be paid by the Kenyans, the taxpayers' money. Number two is that if you're talking about the cost of living, the president was sworn in to ensure the economy of this country goes back on track. And that is exactly what him and his cabinet wakes up every single day to ensure the cost of living is manageable. And all necessary strategies have been put in place. And if you listen to every time President talks, he always mentions things which he has put in place, the policy framework in terms of taxation, in terms of removing different levies. Can you imagine one Kenyan going to court to ensure the import levy of edible oils stays, that is not removed, because the government, through the Minister of Trade, decided now, let's remove that 5% of import levy, which was put in by the previous government on importation of edible oils to the country. Why? Because we had very senior people in the previous government which were constructing policies to enable their business, their local business, so that they can continue making money in the sector of edible oils. Someone, a Kenyan, supported by some of these fellows, goes to court to ensure the government does not remove that 5% of the import levy, so that the companies which manufacturing edible oils in the country, and we know them, like Menengai, like Bidco, like Pwani Hoe, and such kind of companies, continue manufacturing very expensive
I'm hoping you're not implicating them, because they also have a right to reply.
They can reply. We are in a free society. We are in a completely free society.
But we need to have those facts on the table so that
those are the facts.
Those
are the facts. It is true. Someone went to court, and we know how these things operate. I come and tell you, please go to court. These are in the information. Then the injunction is put tomorrow by our judicial system to stop implementation of that until the case is earned to conclusion. So the president and his government has come up with very important policies, frameworks to ensure the cost of living will come down. And we have seen at the moment quite a number of commodities, their prices is going down. The price of gas has gone down, cooking gas. The price of edible oils has gone down. The price of vegetables is coming down. So essentially, the cost of living will ease with time as we implement these policies in a very diligent and careful and prudent manner. So for us in Kenya Kwanza government, there's no reason why we should. In any case, that's why the government was put in place, to ensure the cost of living goes down. Why would we go and discuss about the cost of living coming down with opposition? In any case, opposition should be going around the country in a peaceful manner, trying to explain to Kenyans how Kenya Kwanza government is banned, so that they can form the next government in CAM 2027.
Do you support the live coverage of the talks tomorrow?
I support that 100%. Let's hear what Kalonzo Musyoka is talking about.
And
for Kenyans, because we know he doesn't have any interest whatsoever about Kenyans. He's looking at his own interest. Remember,
let's not preempt. Let's not preempt. We are expecting that tomorrow.
We are in this political space. We are in this political space every single day. When we are in parliament with my sister here, is a gathering of politicians, both in Azimio and in Kenya Kwanza, and we are friends. Even in Azimio, and we talk as friends, as a brother, you know, not now as different wearing functions. No, we talk as members of parliament, and we know. Why is it that Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, the Njue and their daughter and son, goes to East Africa Legislative Assembly?
I think we are deviating.
It's because they talk. No.
I'll stop you there, because we are deviating from the topic of discussion, and also to remind our viewers is that the views right here do not necessarily represent the image of the corporation. Let's steer clear from speculation in that.
No, but this is true.
In any way,
Kalonzo's son is in East Africa Legislative Assembly.
Yes.
Winnie Odinga is in East Africa Legislative Assembly.
Yes, but
what I'm trying to tell Kenyans, it is important to tell Kenyans that Azimio have completely zero about their interests.
All right.
It is the Kenya Kwanza government which has 100% interest of Kenyans, not Azimio. Azimio, they lost, they got into a shock for 5 months.
Okay.
Then after 5 months, they realized now, let's go back to Kenyans and start creating problems. Why didn't they not create a problem in the month of September, in the month of October, in the month of December, in the month of January?
I think
why?
Those could be answered tomorrow, because I'm expecting that they're going to allow us as journalists to get in that hall and hear what and every member of those
we
two
support,
teams.
Let the journalists be there and cover that thing live.
Engineer, you support that we cover that live, and still on that, as a governance expert, looking at these talks, the Kenya Kwanza government, as Geoffrey Ruku, Honorable, says that we are expecting that the issues that they talked about are going to be looked into, but strikingly, there was no cost of living. But he argues that as the Kenya Kwanza government, the president is doing that each and every day. So they didn't see any point of having it as one of the 5 issues to be discussed in that. How do you see this?
Well, I want to agree, because you see, Kenya Kwanza has a policy document in place on how to address not only the cost of living, but also the entire economic infrastructure of the country, and governance structure of this country. So they cannot present their own document to be interrogated in a bipartisan discussion. If there is only one place where the Kenya Kwanza plan can be discussed, and that is in Parliament, where you as the opposition, you have a responsibility to provide oversight and checks and balances on the agenda of the government of the day, but not in a private arrangement like such as the bipartisan talks as it appears to be. So therefore, it is not possible for any government to subject itself for scrutiny to a process that has no legal standing whatsoever. So therefore, it is in their right to do that. For the opposition, the agendas that they have presented, also they have a forum to do that in Parliament. But they have refused. And the yes government has said, okay, so you don't want to discuss this in Parliament or Senate, can we come and sit down? But then they also need to provide an alternative plan of the things they want to be addressed and how. That is where we are not seeing Azimio coming out strongly in terms of communicating that alternative plan in terms of addressing the cost of living. And that's where many Kenyans are worried. These people, yes, want to say they stand with us, but they stand with us with what? They are not showing us any proper plan of how they want to address the cost of living. So it is very sad that Kenya Kwanza and Azimio may go and have discussions, and those discussions may not bear no fruit. Even if those discussions are kept open or live to the public, we may end up with some circus or some kind of entertainment glued to the television, which will even affect our productivity at work, because most of Kenyans will end up just there looking at TV and not being able to focus on what is important to us. So I just pray that even if they will be live, can they be made very short so that we move on with our lives? Yes.
And Madam Cecilia, looking at the issues that have been raised, a lot of Kenyans, if you ask any Kenyans right now, what is the first agenda you would like it to be discussed, whether it's at the county assembly, where it's at the national assembly, where it's the bipartisan talk, is the cost of living. And the engineer and Mheshimiwa Ruku has talked about that this is something that the head of state is addressing each and every day. But Kenyans would have wished that this formed basis of the discussion, because in as much as IEBC, we are quite falling short because we do not have commissioners, don't have a chair. In as much as the office of the leader of official opposition is necessary, though not enshrined in the constitution, they would have loved to hear the cost of living being one of the key agendas in the bipartisan talks.
Yeah, it is true. As it is now, most Kenyans would like to hear more about the cost of living. If you read the history of these thriving economies like Singapore, I'm told even some years back, many years back, Kenya loaned Singapore some 5 million shillings. Sometimes back in history. So all these economies that are thriving today, it takes a very painful decision by one man who will be sitting in that seat of a head of state. And as they say, no pain, no gain. And in business, risky ventures are more profitable. So when you take a painful decision, mostly it pays. Now, in the situation where Kenya is today, my brother, in this situation of debts, we are burdened by debts. There was no way out. We cannot take more debts to clear the debts. It is high time we went through a painful period as a nation, but to build ourselves. When we were going through the finance bill, most of us who supported the finance bill.
Allow me now to rope in my guest into the president conversation. This fifth and last day in the Mount Kenya region. Engineer Chrispus, what do you make of the president's goodies today?
Well, I'm very encouraged to see that he holds a lot of promise for the people of Mount Kenya and the country. But I believe he still is struggling in terms of implementing some of his policies, because some of the people who are in government that he inherited from the previous administration,
Yes,
clearly don't have the loyalty he is requiring for his work to be done. It's very unfortunate you find the Kenya Dairy Board
the directors were not there.
They were not there
Yeah.
when he's launching a new plant in Mount Kenya region, and even pronouncing an important policy direction in terms of reforms in the dairy sector. And none of them were there to be able to listen or to communicate what their plan is. So there are some changes he must make, however painful they are. And as far as Azimio may want to say that is removing some of people, some Kenyans from office, it has to be done because he has to have people who are ready to work with him. He cannot work with people who are not able to carry the dreams and aspirations he has for the country. Yes.
Madam Cecilia, what do you make of the president's speech and the goodies?
Yeah, I think it's a good day for the dairy farmers. Even if we are not dairy farmers from the further north, but we are happy for the dairy farmers in the rest of the country. But in his speech, he has mentioned something very short, but I picked it as good news. He mentioned something about the camel milk. You know, when you talk of camel, it is in the northern Kenya, Garissa, Wajir, and all the way to Turkana. We own, I think, among the largest herd of camel. So when he talks of camel milk, I think the Turkana people we will have to walk that journey so that our milk, our camel milk, will also be channeled to the national grid where it will be exported to the Arab countries. I'm told the camel milk has very high medicinal value. It is used to cure some diseases. And in Turkana, we have many camel. So I think that is good news. That is what I've picked personally for my people.
All right.
Yeah.
Honorable Ruku?
What the President has said is completely aligned, properly well aligned. And the government is talking about production. Production. Whether it's production of milk, whether it's production of cereals, whether it's production of coffee, tea, that's the only way we are going to see, for instance, the exchange between Kenya shilling and dollar coming down. Because we must have enough produce, rockery, so that we can be able to export the surplus to other nations. And once we export the surplus to other nations, then we get the foreign currency. We get dollars into our country, and therefore the demand of dollars will come down and the price of dollar against shilling will come down. So the Kenya Kwanza government is aligning itself properly to increase the production of coffee, of tea, of milk, of maize, of beans, of wheat, of sugarcane, everything, of the product which, or the plant which we use to manufacture edible oils like palm oil, like sunflower, like soya beans, all these commodities which are used to produce edible oils, so that the prices of these commodities can come down. Surplus we export to other nations, and also through that we'll see huge manufacturing opportunities coming up. Value addition of milk to yogurt, to powder milk, which we can export to other nations. Value addition of wheat, you know, we have enough wheat production, then we are able to supply in other part of the world. The same case to maize and everything. So it's about production, and government is committed to continue subsidizing production, not consumption. I think it is very important to underline that.
At least the cabinet meeting today in the morning has bore fruits, especially for the farmers. The 10 billion shillings loan to ensure that farmers can access cheap credit.
Yes, for the purposes of production.
And the waiving of the duty and taxes for animal feeds. That is a game changer.
That is what we passed in Parliament, and many people did not talk about it. We're only talking about the housing levy and talking about the 16% of petroleum product VAT. But the number of levies which have been removed when you talk about, for instance, when we're exporting the tea, the VAT on tea, we export the tea, the VAT on packaging of the tea, all that was removed. So we are going to revolutionize this economy within a couple of years from now. Of course, we are still within the first year. You remember, this government came into power in the month of when was the president?
September.
In September. And that is next month. So we'll be coming to an end of 1 year next month. And we expect by the end of the second year, I'm sure Kenyans will be asking the president, please even stay more. Don't go after the second term. We need you around.
That could open up another discussion, and you know it. But away from that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give you the closing remarks. And Mheshimiwa, I would like you also to point out there's something that I saw that you are doing. While you are distributing bursaries, you also remembered some very critical people, SGBV, sufferers or survivors, and also you reminded people that not only are we looking at money to ensure that we are well educated, but also ensuring that we can also make our own money. Kindly point out on that.
Okay, you know, my office is established under the affirmative action, and the engine, the driving force in my office is the affirmative action groups, like women, youth, people living with disability, the aged, and all those special groups. So in the affirmative action fund, there is that aspect of bursary. Although it is very little, but anything, however little it is, whenever it is used prudently, it can produce some results. So with the little bursary in my office, I've been able to take some Form 4 leavers who had just rotten in the village because they had attained some middle grade that they are not able to go to the university. So they attained some middle grade, they need to go for the TVET courses, because now employability of these courses we are going to, we are offering today goes to the TVET side. So I took those around 104 students to Milele, Africa. Then I'm paying all their school fees, accommodation, hostel accommodation, school fees, and even their NEC school fees. So that is taken care of. Then there are these dropouts. There are girls who are victims of gender-based violence. There are girls who got married earlier, early pregnancies, and they are willing to go back to school. We have been looking for them, and some of them are really benefiting from this bursary kitty. Some of them have gone to some specific schools. I engage with principals, so we know on how we've done some arrangements for them. Then the other thing that my office does is the economic empowerment to these special groups. So there are businesses that are owned by women and youth. There is little money that is put in the affirmative kitty that is supposed to empower these groups. So when we were launching the sanitary towels, we were also launching the empowerment money. We were giving these groups some little money, either to value add on what they are already doing or to start new businesses. And like in the 4 quarters that have gone, around 55 groups have benefited from that initiative. They have gotten small money to add value on what they are already doing or to start new businesses. Then people with disabilities have not been left behind. And I also procured 45 sewing machines that are electric sewing machines, so that we can enable women who are venturing into tailoring businesses to have their business modernized. Because they were telling me with the manual machine, they can do a dress per day. But when we gave them the electric sewing machines, they are now producing so much. And the 45 electric machines were distributed across the county, in all the sub-counties, and considering also special groups like youths. Then there are ex-convicts, people who had been jailed, and they are now out with skills that they were trained in jail. Some of them gained tailoring skills, and they don't know where to start from. I welcomed them and gave them a few of these machines. and their business is now thriving. Now what I'm looking forward into is now putting stock into their shops so that they are able to do uniforms, and then by doing so they will have small employment in the village. They will impact on our villagers. Then the other thing that I'm doing is there are youth who are participating in small-scale farming along the irrigation areas in Turkana. Like a place where I come from a place called Katilu. It has an irrigation scheme. It's along River Taukel. And then there is River Kerio, there is River Taukel. So these rivers are permanent.
Yeah, because of the interest of time.
I know. Yeah. And there are some irrigations being practiced there. And in this quarter, I'm now procuring tanks and water pumps so that they can do that small agriculture. Then they are able to, just small economies, to grow their families and to put food on their table and to afford their basic needs. So Affirmative Action Fund is a small fund, but it is doing great things. And we are looking forward. The president was so passionate about it, and he was saying he will finance us well. Because with this small money and you have to cover the whole county, it's not really possible. And for the interest of time, let me stop it there. Next time we will have a whole day for that.
Honorable Ruku, and especially because of what our eyes will be at the Bomas of Kenya tomorrow, and I'm quite sure a number of Kenyans would want to know exactly what will be happening there. I don't know where we will be allowed to cover the proceedings live, but every Kenyan would want to see that. Kindly mention that as we wind up.
I think all the journalists will be around to cover those talks, because the president is committed to be open and very transparent. And I know as me, your team will be very uncomfortable with that move. They were very uncomfortable also with having it in a public place like Bomas of Kenya. But that is what it is. We have to tell Kenyans the truth. The politics of conmanship has to come to an end, and it's going to come to an end with the administration of the president. And we don't expect much out of the talks, because most of what is being discussed is already in the parliament, in both the Senate and the National Assembly. If it's the issues of IBC, we are talking about the law. The IBC Act, that's the purview of the Parliament. If it's about entrenchment of the leader of opposition in Parliament, if you remember, the first memorandum which the President sent to the House was one of the things he requested is for the Parliament to consider whether the leader of opposition position can be entrenched in our constitution, so that whoever comes second in any general election will have a seat in Parliament. And therefore, let Raila Odinga come and sit where Wandai sit. And then Ruku is on this other side. And we discuss matters of the national importance.
Engineer, wrap it up for us, kindly.
Because
we are out of time.
Thank you so much. For me, I'm looking forward to the bipartisan talks. The only thing I feel like we missed out, remember we had a time where the MCAs had complained about their welfare and the word fund. As much as they have put a CDF as an agenda, the oversight kitty for the senators, why have they also not looked into the issue of the word development kitty? Because it's a matter of national importance. The government of Kenya Kwanza promised to support devolution, and I believe more resources need to be put to the devolved units, and especially to the wards, so that some of these promises that have been captured through the Kenya Kwanza plan can be realized by having more resources near the ground, and to remove the element of the national government being the custodian of the most resources. So I look forward to the talk and hope that we get fruit out of it and avoid the drama that we have used in other talks.
All right, we're definitely going to make sure that we will be breaking down the president's speech. Of course, he has mentioned a number of factors and a number of things that will be helping our assisting a farmer in actualizing milk production in. But all eyes tomorrow will be at the Bomas of Kenya. Allow me to conclude there because we don't have time. We've got some some slides we could have gone through to ensure that we are on the same page. Kenyans are waiting with bated breath to ensure that bipartisan talk do not collapse this time round. My name is Njue. Lensa Odingo has been a sign language interpreter for this live program. And I'm now giving the baton to the Kiswahili desk for Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini, and my colleague Sarafina Ruby is currently on standby. Do have yourself a blessed afternoon.